Hey everybody, it's Ping. Thanks for tuning in to Whiskey Throttle Media here in our race spec video. So we've got the 2023 Honda 450, and this bike, while it doesn't look real different, there's actually quite a few changes to this thing that we covered in our intro. If you missed that, go back and watch it. We spent a long day out here at Glen Helen coming up with good settings. Ryan Dudek and Dre Dirks over at Honda. Dre's been one of their test guys forever, fellow Arizona racer from back in the day. I used to look up to this kid. I was on mini bikes. He was part of their Honda testing department from 1990 till, geez, 2018 or something like that. And anyway, he's back and working with them. A great resource for those guys. And we chatted about some of their development stuff, things that worked and didn't, and what they tried. And so we've got some good notes to share with you. And as always, I want to start with the stock settings. A lot of times when you pick these bikes up, you think, oh, I'm sure they're at the right position. A lot of times they're not. They can, you know, when they get put together, guys miss a couple of clicks here and there. So I'm going to go over the standard settings. All right, your fork should be at, compression should be 10 out, so all the way in, out 10 clicks. Rebound all the way in and out 13 clicks. Okay, that's standard. Your shock, your high-speed compression, which is the dial, 1 and 11/12 to 2 and 5/12 is what the standard positioning is. Low speed compression is 6 out, so all the way in, out 6. And rebound is somewhere between 11 and 14. That's what their recommendation is in their manual. And then for sag, 105 millimeters. And it's very important to keep that number. I know I beat that like I'm a broken record, but check it when you get the bike, check it after you ride it a couple of times, and then check it, I would say, every month. Because as that shock wears and you put time on it, those numbers will change. And if those values get too out of whack, you really affect the handling of the bike, okay? So let's go to what I found. Starting with suspension, and this is where they made a lot of changes on this bike, was directed at the chassis. I can tell you for 22, I could not in stock trim get this bike to handle the way I wanted. I got a decent setting, but I was not happy with it. You know, if you said, hey, you got to go race this weekend just like this, I wouldn't have been stoked. Today, I got there. Late in the day at Glen Helen, I got a bike working well, which if you know this place, that's not easy. It's garbage. It's hard base with chop, and there's mud and there's sand. I mean, you get a bike working good here in the afternoon, it handles good anywhere. So here's what I did. The forks, the compression is at 8. So we actually firmed the fork up just a touch. And some of that is just going to be, this is a baseline, remember that, okay? This is where I'm at and the direction we went, and just sort of notes for you to compare where you're at, or if you're unhappy, go back to stock. You can maybe calculate for your weight and adjust. But I went a little bit stiffer on that fork, just a click or two, and that's going to be dependent on the type of dirt you're riding. And then my rebound is at 12, so we slowed that down 1 click. All right, and then on the shock, here's where we really made the biggest changes. So on this shock, because they added material to the frame in a couple places, they went to a steel hanger on the back of the engine mount. It changed just the rigidity of the frame, so they had to compensate with suspension settings, and the shock went to a stiffer spring. So they're probably aiming at about 185 to 195 is kind of the target weight. So if you're in that weight, your money, and maybe you won't have to make these changes. At 170, the sag numbers are fine. It's not like the spring is out of rate for me, but I needed to make some compression changes to get that shock to work. And so here's what I did. High-speed compression is out to 2 3/4. Okay, so we opened that up a bit. And then low-speed compression's at 10. So we opened that up quite a bit. 4 clicks out. And that was the real moneymaker for me. That went, the high-speed helped. The low-speed was money. It just kept better rear wheel traction, no kick on the big bumps coming down the hills and things like that. It really made all the difference. And then rebound is at 11. We didn't touch it. Mine was set at 11. Like I said, there's a range of 11 to 14. Mine was set at 11 and we left it there. And as far as handling goes, I was really happy. We did try some other things. So I dropped the forks. So they're at the bottom line. There's 2 lines, and I split the difference. So I went 2.5 millimeters down with the forks, because we've got big hills here at Glen Helen, and I thought, well, maybe I could stiffen the high-speed compression to get the back of the bike to kind of stand up a little taller, slide the forks down, and I could get a little bit more of that initial, kind of a soft initial, because you're kind of adding travel, right? You're lifting the bike up. If I just did the forks, I thought it might feel choppered, and it really didn't. We did the forks first, and it felt fine in terms of balance, but what I lost was here at Glen Helen, you get this hard pack, little shallow ruts, and you really need that front end to bite into it. And as I went firmer, I lost that little bit of kind of settling and traction coming into the turns. So if you're at a place that has sand, mud, softer, deeper dirt, I highly recommend dropping your forks down 2.5 mil. I think it'll help you a lot. It's a subtle change, but when you've got big downhills or you're coming into deep braking bumps, it can help the feel of the bike a lot. So if you ever struggle with the front end, kind of feeling low or feeling like you're getting kicked, try that. That's a good tool to have in your toolbox. So that's the handling side of it. And like I said, I was really happy at the end of the day. I think if you start and get into that window, you'll be stoked. I went through all 3 maps. One thing that I really liked this year was that all 3 of these maps, the standard, the soft, and the aggressive, they're all usable. If I was racing here at Glen Helen in the afternoon, I'd probably go standard map. If I'm racing here in the morning or I'm at a place with deeper soil, better traction, I'm definitely aggressive. And if I had a track that's maybe slick, wet slick, or super, super dry, if I was maybe doing an off-road race or something like that, I'd run the soft map just because it was very easy to ride. I could probably ride hard longer on that map. So each one was usable and just different enough that you could feel it and say, okay, I like that map for here and I like this one for there. So I would say definitely get comfortable, go through those maps and figure out what you like about each one and where you could use them. Grips, get rid of these grips. These things are terrible. They're so hard. My hands are smoked. So I would just say, you know, Honda's like kind of the holdout. They haven't gone to some type of aftermarket grip. I mean, go to a better grip. And then lastly, one thing I noticed about this bike is the sound. This exhaust system works great. If you don't need more horsepower, or find an aftermarket exhaust that is as quiet as this, because it definitely takes the sharpness out of the note, and they did that on purpose. And man, we've got to start paying attention to our noise, depending on where you're riding. If you're anywhere near where people can hear you, I'm glad Honda made this step to go a little quieter, and I think it's something we should all pay attention to. Other than that, look, these stock pegs are okay. You can take a rat tail file and kind of sharpen them up a touch. I always like to do that. That helps. I like that Honda's got these levers to where you can adjust where they're at. Make sure you're not reaching for these levers too far. You know, if it's way out there, move it in so it's an easy grab for whatever finger you're using. You know, the seat cover grips well. The gearing is good. There's not a lot of other things I would tell you to play with on this bike. All around, an awesome motorcycle. Once you get a bike to handle, all that other stuff comes around pretty easy. The hard part's getting them to handle in stock trim, and this thing, we got it there without a whole lot of changes, and that says good things about this bike. So if you have one, you're stoked. I hope these settings will help you. If you've got questions, you know, drop them in the comments below. We'll answer them for you. But we appreciate you guys watching. We're gonna have more of these for all kinds of brands, so whatever you're riding, be sure to check back and we'll get you a good starting point. Thanks for watching. See you next time.